Hello, and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News channel. If you want to follow me on my live stream, please check out the link in the description in the comments below. I'm streaming on my backup channel, the Good Free Photos channel. Also check out Crypto Daily Updates, which is my other channel. One great crypto video per day, summarizing all the great news for the day. Also follow my Twitter because YouTube's randomly deleting crypto and gaming channels. If they delete this channel, I'll let you know. And plus I have other updates on Twitter. So let's actually get to the topic, which is Hex. And a lot of people are talking about this because it's shot up. And the thing is it a scam? Now, I don't really directly say if a project is a scam or not, because I don't have inside information. But many people have been saying that BitDAO is a scam because of the way it's set up. But Hex honestly looks like 10 times worse. So the bells are just ringing in my head the entire time. And let's actually discuss how it's actually set up. So basically, for me, when I look at Hex, its only purpose is to stake and generate more money. They basically, the only thing it's for is to stake and generate more money. I don't really know if there's any other use case. And I've had these coins before that are really basically just to stake and make more money. And all of them have went to the gutter after a while. So in addition to regarding Hex's token itself, the promoters say Hex is not a security. And they're basically saying there aren't actually any coins. They're just numbers in a distributed database. That's true with any crypto, though. No one is actually given anything. They're just numbers living on the internet. This code can do anything on its own. People run the code if they wanted to or not. The code can do nothing on its own but sit there. While that is true for almost any other crypto, because cryptos aren't physical things. So in summary, if you send them ETH, which is also the same thing, you won't get it back. Your ETH is a donation. You should expect nothing. You will be not given anything. And oh, by the way, the Hex code can do nothing. So essentially, what they say is the code doesn't actually do anything. It's basically just there to stake and make more Hex. And there's definitely problems with that, as anyone can actually see. So talking about Richard Heart, I don't really know if this is true. There are people that are saying he's currently under SEC investigation. I can't really confirm that. But let's actually go beyond that. This coin is being promoted by internet people like Trevon James of BitConnect infamy. So that definitely does not lend it too much credibility. So the venture first used the name Bitcoin Hex, and he said that one of the main aims of the project is to redistribute the wealth of the Bitcoin ecosystem. So essentially it's a redistribution ecosystem, but unfortunately, as you will see, most of the wealth redistributes directly to Richard Heart. So there's an adoption amplifier, and this is from a Brave New Coin. There's an adoption amplifier, and he actually explains Hex pretty well. So the adoption amplifier is one of the ways through which Hex tokens are created and put into circulation. So the first way you can get Hex is through Bitcoin. Holders of Bitcoin were able to claim their Hex tokens at the rate of 10,000 Hex per Bitcoin. And the project is keen to state that this is not an airdrop because that would have regulation implications. So there's some obviously privacy implications because you have to reveal how much Bitcoin you have. Although you can get around that by using obfuscation technology. So the bulk of the criticism is what Hart calls the adoption amplifier. Using this function, participants can choose to send ETH to an address and then get Hex token in exchange. The project goes to some lengths to insist that this is not a trade, but in reality it is a trade. Instead, the ETH donation creates new Hex tokens as the adoption amplifier transforms the ETH into Hex. Essentially, you can, on any blockchain, you can honestly issue tokens at any time you want. Whether this constitutes a sale in the traditional sense of an ICO is a matter for regulators. But realistically, if you cut through all the BS, this is basically you're getting Hex for paying ETH. What is known is that the Hex promoters receive the ETH sent by the participants who engage with the adoption amplifier. So the promoters of Hex actually just get the ETH and then they create the coins. So they are actually receiving the Ethereum. The adoption amplifier resets every day, and since the launch address has received 35,000 ETH, around $5 million, the amplifier is designed to be live for 353 days. This has actually caused alarm in the crypto community. So basically, people are saying to get Hex after the airdrop, you need to participate in an adoption amplifier, which makes a game out of bidding on new Hex tokens by sending ETH into a pool. The ETH then goes directly to Richard. So Richard essentially just gets the ETH. Just cut through all the BS, he gets all the ETH. Everything in this ridiculous token is designed to look like a game and encourage gambling, but the one universal factor in every game element is that Richard gets wealthier and you get a worthless token that is he invented for free. That's true for most ICOs, but realistically, as they state, the token actually doesn't do anything and doesn't actually exist in their own words. So the biggest issue from critics is the use of an origin address feature embedded in the Hex ecosystem. The origin address is explained by Kyle Barr in the document hex.win. Under the text specs tab, the document is called Hex Contract in layman's terms. Barr says the contract specifies an ETH address as the origin address. The address is paid Hex by the contract in a few days. The origin is paid half of all Hex reclaimed by penalties. So if you stake Hex and you want to take it out early, there's penalties, and the origin address gets half of all the penalties. The origin is also paid a copy of all bonus payments. So every time someone gets a bonus, Richard Heart also gets a bonus. So Hex promoters appear to have created the system where the origin address will have access to the largest amount of Hex by far, because the origin address is the sum of all the bonus payments paid to every single other address. At the end of the initial launch phase, the origin address will have control over a large percent of the circulating supply of token. Due to the design of the smart contract, it is not possible to know how many Hex tokens will actually be created, so they can create just more and more of them. However, some critics estimate the origin address will hold greater than 45% of the Hex in supply. That's true because Richard Heart probably starts off with a lot of Hex, and then like all the bonus payments, Richard Heart gets a copy of. So it's basically a system where Richard Heart gets at least half the tokens in the entire ecosystem. So this is how the estimates are calculated. The origin addresses receives a copy of all bonus payments. Half the bonus payments are sent to the pool to be divided among other participants. For example, the bonus payments are for a day are 4 Hex tokens. The 2 are sent to the origin address, and 2 are sent to the payout pool. So as the scenario continues over time, Richard Heart will actually have more like half the tokens. And there's actually a lot of fines for staking if you take it out early. You can stake and get anywhere from 3.69% to 369%. But the more you want, the longer you have to commit. And if you want to take the coins out, just in case there's a price dump, there's a huge fine for taking out Hex. And this is how the coins are actually pumping, because people don't want to take it out because of the fines. But the thing is, like, it's encouraged. This is actually encouragement for people to keep the coins in for earlier for the staking bonuses. But however, like once the prices actually start dropping, because people like are going to actually eventually want to take it out despite the fines, because they're going to have a really big kind of reward anyways, and the price starts dropping, people are going to want to take it out. And when the price starts dropping, as all these things inevitably will, there's going to be a huge crash. If you can actually look at the Hex coin right now, it really has gone up 10 times. Despite working the same way the entire time, it's actually gone up 10 times or 10 or 20 times in the last few days, and now it's starting to drop. At least it was starting to drop last time I checked. So if we check again here for the Hex token, I do think it's actually beginning to drop now. And if it actually continues to drop back to its original state, people will start panicking and selling out. As you can see, it lost 11.08 today. And you can see from this graph that it actually peaked at 2.7 and now it's dropped back down to 2.1. If it continues to drop like it actually has on a steep incline, people might actually start to panic. And then like people who actually bought at the top would actually lose a lot of money. And the thing is, if you commit for a year, like coins like this, I've seen Masternode coins with really high staking rewards. They pretty much always go to kaput after a while. So if you're staking for a year, sure, you might get a lot of Hex tokens, but the thing is, like, even then they'll be worthless because they've dropped so much in price. And the thing is, like, the penalties are designed for people to keep in, but that'll only work to a certain amount. And Richard Heart, I bet his tokens aren't actually locked, so he can actually cash out at any time. So like the thing is, like, the statement is designed. The system is actually designed for Richard Heart to be the biggest whale by far in the ecosystem, and really the only whale in the ecosystem by far. The project is also designed to where he can actually sell the tokens at any time for his profit. And essentially, if you really look at the design, it's basically a system for him and the promoters to get rich while locking in the rest of the investors in kind of like a staking scheme that actually has them commit their Hex tokens for a large amount of time where they can't actually move it. Now, I don't usually agree with Tone Vays, but he's actually said that he actually thinks Hex really looks like an affinity scam. And this is going to be one of the few times I actually agree with him. It really does look like that. Now, I'm not going to say it's a scam for sure, but it looks really, really bad by the time by the ways it's actually set up. The way they try to get around like calling it an airdrop or calling it an honestly a trade or a sale of tokens, when it obviously is a sale of tokens when you actually look deeper into it. And the fact that this whole system is basically designed to make one huge gigantic whale out of the promoters and Richard Heart just looks really bad. So my view is, if I wouldn't buy Hex with any of my money, but if you do buy Hex, I would not stake it, because you're basically committing a lot of Hex to a project that might actually blow up at any time once Richard Heart decides to sell more Hex, because I don't think his Hex are necessarily locked, regardless of what he actually says. To me, this is not a trustworthy project, and there's definitely a lot of other things to actually buy that are actually better than this. So that is my opinion on Hex. I mean, do your own research, but that's my opinion. It does not look very good, and I do think it's going to come crashing down sometime. So that is my opinion. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe to my Twitter. Thank you, and have a nice day.